The year was 1865, and the frontier had become a graveyard for men's better instincts. War had ended, but the peace that followed tasted like gunpowder and rust. In half-forgotten towns strung along dusty trails, greed was the new law, and human life could be weighed on a scale as easy as sacks of flour. That night, under a lantern's dull glow inside a sagging barn, two women were about to be sold like cattle. The barn reeked of whiskey and sweat, thick with cigar smoke that clung to the rafters. Crude benches were packed with men, ranch hands with dust still on their boots, gamblers in faded waistcoats, miners with calloused hands and hungry eyes. Laughter came sharp and ugly, rising over the whinny of restless horses tied outside. A man at the front, the auctioneer, slapped his ledger with a hand as fat and sweaty as a butcher's cleaver. His voice carried a false cheer, the kind that only deepened the menace in the air. He gestured toward the makeshift stage. Two women stood there, hands bound, shoulders rigid, their faces pale, in the lamplight. One was perhaps 23, though her eyes looked older, shadowed with a knowledge of pain no woman should bear. She held her chin high despite the filth of the place, her long, dark hair falling in tangles around her face. She was beautiful, yes, but there was something more, an aura of quiet defiance that only stoked the bitter's cruelty. Her name was Anna, though the crowd knew nothing of that. To them, she was just lot number 3. Beside her was another, younger, 19 maybe. She trembled as the auctioneer's hand clamped on her shoulder, but her gaze held sparks of fire even as her lips quivered. Blonde curls hung limp, dusted with dirt, but her face carried a raw prettiness that caught the torchlight. She looked one wrong move away from breaking down, yet when her eyes flitted toward the crowd, there was hatred there, sharp enough to cut. This was Lily, and she had already made a silent vow not to scream, no matter what was done to her. The auctioneer barked the starting price, and laughter rolled like thunder. Men shouted numbers, some jeering, others whistling, each bid an act of possession rather than purchase. The barn's floor vibrated with their eagerness. One rancher leaned forward, yellow teeth glinting. Another gambler, drunk on rye, slammed a coin purse against his thigh, as if daring the others to test his resolve. In the back of the barn, a man leaned against the wall, his hat brim low, shadowing a face hardened by war. Ethan Cole had seen enough misery to fill 3 lifetimes, yet the sight before him dug under his skin like barbed wire. He had ridden into town that afternoon, thinking only of whiskey and a bed, but he had followed the crowd out of curiosity, drawn by rumor of an auction. What he found was uglier than anything the battlefields had shown him. He shifted slightly, his coat brushing against the scarred stock of the rifle slung at his back. His revolver hung easy at his side, a part of him as natural as breath. But it was not habit that kept him watching, it was conscience. The war had left him hollow, yet not so hollow he could let this stand. Still he hesitated. The frontier punished men who stuck their noses in other folks' business. He knew if he stepped forward, he'd be crossing a line he couldn't uncross. The bidding surged higher. Anna stared at the dirt floor, lips pressed tight, while Lily's small frame shook. A gambler barked a number, laughter answered, and the auctioneer's slick voice rang louder. Ethan felt the muscles in his jaw tighten. The men here weren't buying laborers nor wives, they were buying prey. Then it happened. A drunken miner staggered closer to the stage, shouting a bid that silenced the others. He reached for Anna's arm, rough fingers brushing her skin. She recoiled, head snapping away in silent refusal. The barn erupted in raucous laughter. The miner sneered, about to speak, but before the words left his mouth, a new voice cut through the din. "I'll take them both." The laughter stilled, falling into a hush so sharp the horses outside stamped nervously. Heads turned. Ethan stepped forward, boots sounding heavy on the packed dirt. He drew from his coat a leather pouch, letting gold coins spill into his palm. The glow of firelight danced across the metal, bright enough to make greedy eyes widen. The auctioneer froze, blinking. "Both." His tone carried disbelief, almost mockery. Ethan's gaze held steady. "Both. Right now. No questions. For a moment, silence stretched taut as a hangman's rope. Then came the anger. Men muttered curses, a gambler slammed his fist into the bench, the drunk miner snarled and spat. One rancher stood, hand drifting toward his holster. "You don't just walk in and buy the whole lot, stranger," he growled. Ethan's voice was even, almost soft. "I just did." The rancher's hand twitched closer to his revolver. Ethan saw it, and in the space of a heartbeat, his own pistol cleared leather. The crack split the air like a whip, smoke curled upward, and the rancher collapsed, clutching his shoulder, screaming. For a moment, the barn held its breath. Then chaos exploded. Men dove for cover, some drew weapons, others shouted. Ethan moved like a man born of gunfire, his revolver bucking 3 times, each shot finding its mark. A gambler fell backward, a knife clattering from his hand. Another man yelped as his gun was shot clean out of his grip. The barn filled with smoke and curses, the acrid tang of powder biting the air. The auctioneer stumbled back, hands raised, his face pale as wax. "Enough! Enough, damn you! They're yours!" Ethan's revolver smoked, his stance unyielding. His eyes swept the crowd, daring any man to test him. None moved. Slowly, he lowered the weapon, holstered it with deliberate calm, and strode to the stage. Anna's eyes met his, wide with disbelief, while Lily blinked tears she had refused to shed. Ethan cut the ropes that bound them, tossing the frayed cords aside. "You're free," he said, voice low. Anna's lips parted, as if to argue or question, but no words came. Lily clutched her arm, trembling, yet she did not pull away as Ethan guided them down from the platform. The crowd parted like grass before fire, glares hot with hatred but hands too wary to move. The 3 of them walked into the cool night, the barn's glow at their backs and the restless hush of the mob trailing after them. Outside, the night was sharp with dust and pine, stars scattered across the black like scattered ash. Ethan untied his horse, a sturdy bay, and helped the women mount behind him. Neither spoke as he led them from the outpost, his senses keen on every rustle in the dark. He knew men would follow. Greed wasn't so easily extinguished. They rode for miles until the glow of town faded, the only sound the steady rhythm of hooves and the women's uneven breaths. Finally, when the land stretched open and the night wrapped them in silence, Ethan drew rein near a cluster of cottonwoods by a stream. He slid from the saddle, gathering dry wood, sparking a fire to life. Flames crackled, painting their faces with shifting light.
The women sat close together, shivering though the night was mild. Ethan passed them a canteen, his voice quiet. "Drink. You'll need strength." Lily sipped, hands trembling. Anna watched him, her eyes wary, as if waiting for the truth to reveal itself. "You didn't have to do that," she said at last. Her voice was steady, carrying the weight of someone long used to holding herself upright no matter the cost. "No," Ethan agreed, "but I wasn't about to stand there and watch." Silence fell again. The crackle of fire, the distant cry of a coyote, the sigh of the stream filled the space where words should have been. Ethan leaned back, hat tipped low, though his eyes never closed. He was a man who had learned the hard way that danger came in silence. The women huddled near the fire, Lily finally drifting toward restless sleep. Anna stayed awake, gaze fixed on the flames. After a long time, she spoke, her words soft, almost to herself. "You don't know what you've done, do you?" Ethan's eyes flicked toward her. "Bought you both your freedom." She shook her head, a bitter shadow crossing her face. "You think it ends there, but it doesn't. They'll come. They won't stop. And when they do, it won't just be for me, it'll be for you too." Ethan said nothing, waiting. Her voice dropped lower, almost a whisper. "Because of who I am." The fire snapped, sending sparks into the night. Ethan studied her face, saw the fear there beneath the steel, and knew she spoke the truth. He leaned forward, feeding another branch into the flames, his jaw set. Whatever road he had stepped onto tonight, it was already too late to turn back. The fire had burned low, its glow reduced to faint coals when Anna finally spoke again. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through the hush of night as if the shadows themselves leaned closer to hear. "My name isn't just Anna," she said. "It's Anna McKenna." Ethan tilted his head, the name striking something distant in his memory. He'd heard it before, in saloons and along trails, usually in stories laced with envy and resentment. McKenna was a name with weight, tied to sprawling acres of grazing land, cattle herds like rivers of hide and horn, and money enough to buy loyalty or bullets as needed. "My father," Anna continued, staring into the fire, "is John McKenna. You've likely heard of him." Ethan said nothing. He watched her face, noting how she carried her father's name not with pride, but with a bitterness sharpened over years. "I was taken," she went on, "not by strangers, but by men who wanted to wound him. They thought ransoming me would force his hand. But when he refused to bargain, when he refused me," her voice faltered only briefly before tightening again, "they put me on that block instead." The silence that followed was heavy. Lily stirred, pressing closer against her cousin, her young face pale in the firelight. "I couldn't leave her," she whispered. "When they took Anna, I followed. They caught me too." Ethan leaned forward, resting forearms on his knees. "And you're telling me the men back there, the ones who bid, the ones who watched, that wasn't chance? They knew who you were." Anna's eyes finally met his, and in them burned the kind of fury only betrayal could carve into a soul. "They knew. And they'll hunt me until they've finished what they started." Ethan rubbed a callous thumb along his jaw. He hadn't expected this. When he stepped into that barn, he thought he was saving two lost women from beasts in human skin. Instead, he'd stumbled into a blood feud between one of the most powerful cattle barons in the territory and the vultures who circled him. And now, whether he wanted it or not, he was tangled in the snare. "They'll come," Anna said softly. "And when they do, they'll kill you too. You should have let me be." Ethan glanced at the fire, then at the revolver on his hip. He thought of the men in the barn, their laughter, the way the miner's hand had reached for her like she was already his. He thought of Lily, trembling but unbroken. His choice was already made the moment he pulled that first trigger. "I've done worse things in my life than saving two women," he said at last. "If trouble's coming, I'll meet it." For a moment Anna only studied him, eyes narrowing as if trying to read the depths of the man before her. Then she gave the faintest nod, her shoulders relaxing by a fraction, though the tension never fully left her. The night wore thin, and dawn bled pale across the horizon. The trio broke camp, the fire reduced to smoke. They rode east, following the river that cut through cottonwood groves and rocky bluffs, the sound of rushing water masking the silence between them. But silence never lasted long on the frontier. By mid-morning, Ethan's sharp eyes caught movement on a ridge behind them. Tiny figures on horseback, keeping their distance but matching their pace. He cursed under his breath. "They've found us," he said. Anna turned, her breath catching when she saw the dust plume on the horizon. Lily tightened her grip on the saddle horn, fear flashing across her face. Ethan urged his bay forward. "We'll have to lose them." The chase began. Hooves pounded the earth, dirt kicking high behind them. The land grew wild, gullies and rocks forcing sharp turns. The riders behind closed in, their shouts faint on the wind. Ethan led Anna and Lily into a narrow ravine, where jagged cliffs rose like teeth. They raced until the ravine forked. Ethan yanked the reins, steering them into the left branch. When the riders followed, he gritted his teeth and pulled them into cover behind a cluster of boulders. "Stay low," he barked, sliding from the saddle. He crouched behind stone, rifle steady. His breath slowed, heartbeat calm as a drumbeat. Shadows shifted above, riders appearing at the rim. Ethan fired. The crack echoed, one man pitching backward off his horse. Shouts rang, shots answered, bullets sparking against rock. Anna and Lily ducked, clinging to each other, while Ethan reloaded with practiced efficiency. Two more men charged down the ravine. Ethan shifted position, revolver flashing. One dropped, the other swerved, his shot grazing Ethan's shoulder. Pain flared, but Ethan stayed steady, firing again until the man fell into the dust. The survivors hesitated, their courage tested by the drifter's steel. Ethan's cold eyes scanned the ridge, daring them forward. At last, curses echoed, and the riders wheeled away, retreating in a storm of hooves. The silence afterward was deafening. Ethan lowered his weapon, blood soaking his sleeve. Lily gasped, rushing to his side, but he waved her back. "It's nothing. I've had worse." Anna knelt beside him anyway, tearing a strip from her skirt to bind the wound. Her hands were steady, though her face betrayed the storm beneath. "You saved us again," she murmured. Ethan met her gaze, but said nothing. The frontier had taught him words meant little compared to action. They rode on, the day heavy with heat. By late afternoon they reached the river, its waters swollen from recent rains. The current churned fierce and fast, carrying branches and foam. Ethan frowned, studying it. "We have to cross," he said. "They'll circle behind if we don't." Anna's face paled. Lily's hands clenched the reins. Ethan dismounted, testing the water near the bank. It surged cold against his boots. "We'll take it slow. Hold tight and don't let go." He mounted again, Anna and Lily behind him. The horse plunged into the river, muscles straining against the current. Water rose to the animal's chest, splashing high. Lily cried out as the current tugged hard, nearly unseating her. "Hold on!" Ethan shouted, urging the horse forward. A branch struck, knocking Lily's grip loose. She screamed as the river tore her from the saddle, dragging her downstream. "Lily!" Anna cried. Without hesitation, Ethan dove from the horse, plunging into the icy torrent. The river slammed him, spun him, but he fought, arms cutting through water. He glimpsed Lily's blonde hair, heard her panicked gasps. Kicking hard, he reached her, seizing her arm. She clung to him desperately, coughing as water choked her lungs. Ethan pulled, every muscle straining. The river roared, dragging them under, but he forced them toward the far bank. Rock scraped his legs, his chest burned, yet inch by inch he drove them closer. Finally, with one last heave, he shoved Lily onto the muddy shore. He collapsed beside her, chest heaving, lungs burning. Anna splashed ashore, grabbing her cousin, sobbing with relief. Lily clutched Ethan's arm, eyes wide with gratitude and terror. You saved me," she whispered. Ethan coughed hard, spitting river water, then managed a grim smile. "Couldn't let you drown after all this trouble." They rested there until strength returned. The fire of survival burned between them now, unspoken but binding. Trust had been forged in the river's fury, stronger than rope. Night fell heavy as they made camp in a sheltered hollow. The firelight danced across their weary faces. Lily slept quickly, exhaustion claiming her. Anna sat awake, watching Ethan as he cleaned his rifle, his movements steady despite the day's trials. "You're not like other men," she said quietly. Ethan didn't look up. "War burns most of the softness out of a man. What's left is just what you see." Anna's eyes softened, though sorrow shadowed them. "Maybe. Or maybe what's left is the part strong enough to keep others alive." For a moment silence hung between them, heavy but not unwelcome. The fire crackled, throwing sparks into the night sky. It was near midnight when the sound came. A twig snapped in the darkness. Ethan's hand went to his revolver instantly, eyes narrowing. From the shadows, a voice rasped. "Thought you could steal from us, Cole?" The sound of a gun cocking sliced through the night. "She belongs to us all." Ethan rose slowly, weapon ready, eyes scanning the gloom. Shapes moved among the trees, more than one. Men stepping into the firelight, faces cruel, guns glinting. Anna's hand flew to her mouth. Lily stirred awake, terror widening her eyes. The circle closed. The men moved like wolves in the half-light, their boots crunching soft over pine needles, guns gleaming in the fire's glow. Ethan counted 4, maybe 5, circling with the quiet confidence of killers who believed the night was theirs. He stood tall in the flicker of flame, revolver raised steady, eyes narrow and calm. Behind him, Anna and Lily pressed close to the fire, its light catching their fear like glass. "Put the gun down, Cole," the leader said. He stepped forward, a tall, broad-shouldered brute with a scar carving across his jaw. His smile was crooked, cruel. "We ain't got quarrel with you. We came for her." His chin jerked toward Anna. Ethan's voice was low, but it cut like iron. "Then you do have quarrel with me." The brute chuckled, glancing at his men. "You don't know who we are, do you? We ride for Clayton Holt. Man doesn't forgive debts. And Anna McKenna here, she's a debt with blood tied to it. You hand her over, maybe we let you live." Anna stiffened at the name, her breath sharp. Ethan felt it, though he didn't take his eyes off the gang. "Holt," he said, as though tasting the word. "Figures. Only a coward would sell women when he couldn't break a man." The insult landed hard. The brute's face twisted, and he spat into the dirt. "Kill him." The world snapped into chaos. Ethan fired first, the revolver barking flame, dropping one man before he cleared the shadows. Another lunged, muzzle flashing. The bullet screamed past Ethan's ear, close enough to burn. He pivoted, shot twice, and the man stumbled into the dirt, blood staining his shirt. The brute charged, swinging a heavy pistol like a club. Ethan caught the movement too late. The blow crashed against his shoulder, sending pain searing down his arm, his revolver tumbling. He went down hard, dust choking his lungs. Anna cried out, scrambling to reach him, but Lily yanked her back. The brute loomed above, pistol raised for the killing strike. And then Anna moved. She seized Ethan's fallen revolver with both hands, the weight near breaking her wrists, but she raised it and pulled the trigger. The blast shattered the night. The brute's chest jerked, his eyes wide with shock before he toppled backward into the dirt. Silence fell, broken only by the crackle of fire and the rasp of Ethan's breath. The last outlaw, seeing his leader fall, cursed and fled into the darkness, hoofs thundering as he vanished into the night. Anna lowered the smoking revolver, her arms trembling, the gun slipping from her fingers. Ethan pushed himself upright, pain etched deep into his face, but his eyes locked on hers. For a long moment, no words passed. The fire popped, sparks rising like spirits into the black sky. "You saved my life," Ethan said finally. Anna's breath shuddered out, tears glinting though her voice was steel. "You saved mine first." Morning came gray and weary. They broke camp quickly, knowing more men would come. Ethan's wound was bound but aching, and Anna's hands shook as she tightened the bandage. Lily watched both of them with wide eyes, saying little, but the trust in her gaze was unspoken and solid. They rode hard that day, the horizon stretching endless before them. Ethan pushed himself past pain, guiding them east toward the McKenna ranch. Each mile seemed heavier than the last, not just for the wounds and the fear of pursuit, but for the weight of what waited at the end of the trail. By evening, the land began to change. Fences, windmills, pastures rolling wide under the sky. Herds dotted the distance, cattle lowing as cowhands rode the perimeter. And then, as the sun bled red into the west, the ranch house rose, a grand sprawl of timber and stone, its lamps glowing like beacons against the dark. Ethan reined in, his breath harsh. "This is it." Anna stared at the house, her face caught between longing and bitterness. "Home," she whispered, though the words sounded foreign on her tongue. They approached the yard. Ranch hands noticed, Rifles lifted until they saw Anna's face. Shouts rang, and soon the doors of the house opened. A man strode out, broad, gray at the temples, his presence commanding the yard with a weight of years. John McKenna. His eyes fell on his daughter, and for the briefest moment, raw relief lit his stern features. Then he saw Ethan, and the light hardened to suspicion. Anna slid from the horse, legs trembling as she staggered toward him. "Father!" McKenna caught her in his arms, holding her fiercely. But his eyes never left Ethan, cold and sharp. "Who is he?" "The man who saved us," Anna said, pulling back. "More than once." McKenna's gaze raked Ethan up and down. "Or the man who brought you trouble?" Before Ethan could answer, a rider thundered into the yard, breathless. "Boss!" Holt's men, dozens of 'em, riding fast, guns ready. The yard erupted in motion. Men scrambled for rifles, shouting orders. McKenna turned to Ethan, jaw tight. "You brought them here." Ethan's eyes narrowed, his voice steady. "They were coming whether I did or not. Holt doesn't stop." McKenna's stare lingered, testing, but Anna's fierce voice cut through. "He fought for me when no one else did. He's the reason I'm standing here." McKenna faltered. Then he gave a sharp nod. "Fine. We fight together." The night filled with preparation. Rifles were loaded, lanterns extinguished. Men took positions along fences and porches. Ethan checked his revolver, the cylinder heavy with fresh rounds. His shoulder throbbed, but his eyes were cold and steady. Beside him, Anna gripped a pistol, hands steadier now than they had been by the fire. Lily stayed near, clutching a rifle too big for her, but refusing to let go. The ground trembled. Hooves thundered. Holt's gang swept into the valley, their torches blazing, a swarm of dark riders against the night. At their head rode Holt himself, a lean, sharp-eyed man with a wolf's grin and cruelty carved deep into every line of his face. He reined in, voice booming. "McKenna, you know why I'm here. Hand over your daughter, and we'll let the rest of you live." McKenna stood tall on the porch, rifle steady. "You'll take nothing from me, Holt." The gang roared, spurring forward. Gunfire cracked, echoing off the hills. Bullets tore through fences, splinters flying. McKenna's men answered, their rifles barking flame. Horses screamed. Men toppled. Chaos consumed the yard. Ethan moved like a man forged for battle. He fired with precision, each shot dropping a rider. Holt's men swarmed, bullets whistling past, but Ethan never faltered. Anna fired too, the recoil bruising her arms, yet she stood her ground, her aim true. Lily reloaded with trembling hands, passing cartridges to Ethan, her courage shining through fear. The fight raged fierce. Holt himself dismounted, striding through the smoke with pistols blazing. His eyes locked on Anna, his grin wide. "You should have stayed sold, girl." Ethan stepped between them, revolver raised. The two men faced each other across the yard, firelight dancing off steel. "Cole," Holt sneered. "I heard of you. War dog turned drifter. You should have stayed lost." "Maybe," Ethan said. His voice was flat, cold as a grave. "But I didn't." Holt fired first. Ethan dove, rolled, came up firing. The yard froze in that heartbeat of violence, two men locked in a duel older than law. Bullets screamed, dirt flew. Holt staggered, a shot tearing through his side. Still he grinned, blood on his teeth, and raised his pistol for the killing blow. Ethan's last round found its mark. Holt's grin faltered, his body collapsing into the dust. The gang saw their leader fall, their courage breaking like glass. Shouts rose, and they fled into the night, leaving their dead behind. Silence followed, heavy and raw. The smoke cleared, the yard strewn with bodies and broken wood. McKenna's men cheered, weary but alive. Ethan stood swaying, blood on his sleeve, his revolver empty. Anna rushed to him, catching his arm before he fell. Her eyes shone with fierce relief, her voice breaking. "You didn't just save us. You gave us back our lives." Lily pressed close too, her hand gripping his, her silent gratitude as strong as any words. McKenna approached, his face stern but softened with respect. "You've done what no man had reason to. My land, my men, my family. We owe you more than we can pay." Ethan shook his head, voice rough. "Don't owe me anything. I did what had to be done." But Anna's hand tightened on his, her gaze holding him with a strength that pierced through all his scars. "Stay," she whispered. "Don't ride away into the dust. Not after this." Ethan looked at her, at Lily, at the ranch hands gathering around with eyes no longer suspicious but admiring. He felt the weight of the war, the wandering, the loneliness that had defined him. For the first time in years, he wondered if maybe, just maybe, he had found a place where the fight could end. The night quieted. Stars wheeled above, bright and endless. Ethan let out a long breath, shoulders easing. Whatever tomorrow brought, he had stood his ground, and in doing so, found something worth holding on to. The narrator's voice drifted soft, like wind across the prairie. On the frontier, men were measured not by what they took, but by what they gave. Ethan Cole walked away from that night with no riches, no glory, only the knowledge that sometimes saving two souls could change a man's own. And maybe, just maybe, that was worth more than gold. So what do we take from this tale? Maybe it's this: the frontier wasn't just a place, but a test of will. And those who endured, endured because they chose humanity in a land that had little. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and leave your thoughts below.